Recent earnings that are painting a better picture of consumer sentiment despite the uncertainty caused by U.S. tariffs. While some key markets are underperforming, others are showing signs of strength. Cartier Richemont was the first to report, posting 5.4 billion euros in quarterly sales, up 6% year on year. The Swiss luxury group has largely benefited from jewelry sales. Demand among wealthy consumers has remained resilient despite the ongoing macroeconomic pressures. Meanwhile, rival Swatch flagged weakness in China as a key headwind for the group in the first half. Overall, profits plunging nearly 90%, but the Swiss watchmaker saw small improvements in other key markets such as the U.S., Japan, and India. And sales at the British luxury brand Burberry fell 2% in the 3 months to the end of June, a small improvement from the previous quarter. The company said it was encouraged by the progress of its turnaround strategy, seeing positive signs in Europe and the Americas in particular. CEO Joshua Schulman highlighted the diversity of the luxury consumer in the U.S., adding the brand's positioning as a luxury brand with universal appeal was working. Now, of course, we're also looking ahead to other key earnings. Sector behemoth LVMH is due to report after the bell on Thursday, followed by rivals Kering and MS next week. Let's dig into the sector with Carol Maggio, head of European luxury goods research at Barclays. Great to have you in. I know you're incredibly busy women these days. Let's take a look back before we take a look at what's coming up. What do you make of the earnings in the luxury sector so far?
Yeah, sure. I feel like it has been pretty much, as expected so far. So, with Richemont Burberry being a bit better than expected on the print and Swatch being, a bit underperforming on the back of their really big watch exposure. Again, back to Richemont, it was quite strong with the core division, which is jewelry, which has the brand Cartier and Van Cleef, still up 11%, so quite strong. I guess maybe here the small thing that when you look at the growth by cohort, so by all the key nationalities, it was actually a bit down versus the past quarter. So the Chinese, the American, and the European were all a bit slowing down. But yes, it was, of course, still quite a good number overall for Richemont. Same thing for like Burberry. And, of course, yes, Swatch, as mentioned, a bit here still underperforming on the back of the watch space.
All right, let's look ahead then, because the problem child in this industry, obviously, is Kering. Shares down some 60% of the last years. At least they have a new CEO, even though he's from the auto sector. But does it need an outsider to turn around Kering and the flagship brand Gucci?
I think it could be a good thing. Honestly, of course, having done a bit of work on his experience at the auto world, working at Fiat, Volkswagen, Renault, of course. I think that De Meo, so the new CEO, has a really strong track record in turnaround businesses. And I think also in branding, because when you think about it, he was able to, I think, build some iconic car models during his time in the auto space. And so, of course, when you think about it, it could be also quite a good first step to do the same thing, just in a different industry, which is luxury goods. So I think it could be quite a good appointment to bring him on. He's joining in September. But of course, even if you look back at what he did at Renault, so his last job, it took him like 5 years to, put back the business on track. So it will still be, I think, also a long term to turn around Gucci.
What will it take to turn Gucci around? Gucci, when you look across the luxury spectrum, is targeting the aspirational consumer as opposed to, some of Hermes products, which are the ultimate luxury consumer. So specifically, what would your sort of advice be as an expert on Kering? What should he do, De Meo, and when he takes the helm at Kering in a couple months' time?
Yeah, that's the big question. I guess, of course, the key thing is trying to bring back some brand desirability at the key brand Gucci, which is definitely the biggest challenge here. We have been seeing a few designer changes over the past few years at the brand, which I think was maybe not the right profile. And so there is a new one now coming, so Demna, who used to be at Balenciaga just before. So let's see if we can do that. But I feel like when I speak to a fashion expert, their key issue is Gucci has been lacking a bit of newness, some novelty here. And they wonder if Demna can bring that, having already, of course, been at the Kering group for many years at Balenciaga. So I think that's the big question here. So bringing newness, something fresh, which has not been seen before, is I think really what could make Gucci great again.
Really interesting.
Making Gucci great again. I like that.
It's really good. How do we... Magaga.
Magaga.
Let me come back to Richemont, because interesting to hear you speak so positively about Richemont, and that seemed to be the view across the street, that the Richemont numbers were strong. This was a good set of numbers from Richemont. If you want to be positioned in luxury, Richemont seems like a pretty strong contender alongside Burberry. But then you look at the share price performance of Richemont, and it's down over the last month. Why didn't the stock go up? Why hasn't it gone up on the back of these strong numbers? And what will it take to turn that story around?
Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, as mentioned, the print was good. The name was up 11% in their core division. But I said, you also have been seeing, even for ourselves, like some small earnings revision on a downside on the back of the print. And that's mostly because of FX, which is, a negative for many names in the sector, including Richemont in the short term. So you kind of have to revise down your earnings expectation just because you have to better adjust for the FX move, which is currently, being a negative. So I feel like this is maybe some small negative news out there, which is negatively impacting the share price. When I also speak to a few investors who do like the story, but they also wonder what could come next to make the name even more attractive at this level.
So what's going to be the next catalyst?
Yeah, exactly,
to justify
because all the
gains?
good news is already out there. So that's also, I think, maybe why there is now a bit more questions on Richemont, even though it's still a consensual long across the space.